Go in that cave and hide until you die. Welcome to the Bloom Era. Join Marie, Michelle, Vita, and Michelle, 4 lifelong friends, on our journey through perimenopause. We'll share our stories, insights, and laughter as we embrace this new stage of womanhood. Let's bloom together. Why am I so nervous?
Okay, ladies, we are discussing hair and fingernail changes in menopause. What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What are you thinking?
I noticed one finger has a distinct ridge in it. And then as we were talking, I've started kind of feeling more, and there's slight ridges in my others. Nothing as big as the one in my ring finger on my left hand. It almost feels like somebody took the nail and bent it in half and then put it back out, like it's got a distinct corner almost to it. And then I have been losing a lot of hair, but I attribute that more to my recent surgery because it is starting to grow back and I get the little baby hairs flying around. Um, Luckily, I had thick hair, so I had plenty to lose, to where now I have just a normal amount of hair. Um, so, which actually I like the amount I have now. It's a little bit easier to take care of. So hopefully it stays right here. Um, but I'm not sure if I would attribute the hair loss to the menopause, but the nails now got me thinking that may be my first sign.
Same. I've got a lot of ridges on my fingernails, and they're every year they get more and more prominent. And then the hair loss, also the same. I had a surgery last year, and after the surgery, I lost a lot of hair. But when my hair is growing back in, it's coming in gray, where I didn't have a whole lot of grays before. And this last year, they've grown like exponentially because all my new hair is coming gray and coarse now.
Yeah, so I guess we've all kind of have the same fingernail symptoms. They're not as smooth and neat looking as they used to be when we were younger, but I've got the ridges on, I think, all my nails. They might not be super prominent, but you can see it, but I think my thumbs are super prominent. I think my nails in general just don't look as good. I don't know if they're just what was that we said? You can always tell somebody's age by looking at their hands, and I guess these ridges are kind of one of these first signs of aging, or maybe not first signs, but a sign of aging. So yeah, definitely am seeing some changes in my fingernails. And in terms of hair, I feel like every morning that I brush my hair, a ton of hair is falling off, but I feel like I've had that happen for a very long time. So I can't really tell if it's more than normal. I feel like my hair is similar thickness than it was before, but it is always falling out. If I wash my hair, clumps of hair falls out. If I'm brushing my hair, if I'm trying to blow dry it with a brush, it's terrible. It's like all over the floor. So I don't know if
But you don't
that's
feel like thickness has changed, right?
it. May be. I mean, I never had super thick hair. But I was kind of like I had fine hairs. I had a lot of fine hairs, so maybe I have less of them now. But I never felt like Shelly. I feel like your hair follicles are thick. Like you have a lot of hair and it's thick. So I feel like I had a lot of hair, but my like the follicles were thin. So I don't know. Am I noticing? Like I guess yeah, right near kind of like my forehead area. I do notice like when I tie my hair up, I'm like, do I have a bald spot? Because it's like thinning up here.
Yeah, I noticed that when I part the hair.
Yeah.
Like,
So
okay.
maybe it is thinning. Scary. I guess I shouldn't have gotten so loud. I should speak it like Shelly. Maybe it is thinning. But yeah, I guess it is. You're right. Because sometimes I'll tie my hair and I'll see it in a photo and be like, never noticed that before. So yeah.
Do you think yours is getting thinner? Because did you have thick hair before?
No, I've never had thick hair. I've never had I've never had like thin hair either. It's always been, I think I had more fine hair, but not a ton, not as much as you did. But no, I feel like, I mean, there's been like after childbirth, after COVID, and then after surgery, there are definitely distinct points where I've lost more hair, but it's grown back. So
Right.
it's just going gray now.
I do think the ends of my eyebrows are getting thinner too. Like this is makeup eyebrows right here. I mean, I still have regular eyebrows too. It's not just like drawn on, but I do fill them in because I feel like they are getting thinner, and I do get a lot of white hairs in my eyebrows. But the white hairs are super thick and coarse.
No, how about y'all's eyebrows? I mean, not just tweezing from the
I've over tweezed
2000
for so long.
I was never a tweezer.
Yeah.
Yours are virgin
Yeah.
eyebrows, but have y'all noticed any change on that? I know
No.
it doesn't grow back the way it.
Yeah, I'm trying to grow. I had a couple months where I was like, I'm gonna commit to growing it back, but it was like 3 months and it never grew back like to where it looked okay. Like there was always like bits and pieces. I was waiting for it to fill in on the ridge line, and it never did. So I just gave up and was like, I'm just gonna pluck. But I haven't noticed any gray hairs though. That'd be interesting in my
Well,
eyebrows.
I don't see any gray hairs just in your hair in general, and I'm assuming you don't dye.
I don't dye. I
Yeah.
do have a few gray hairs, but it's not enough to like it's kind of hidden underneath like my hair. Like it's like maybe one or two, and I'll pluck them. Oh, I guess it's more than one or two, maybe like 5 or 6, but it's not a big deal.
That was the benefit of not being into the trends as high schoolers. I did not overpluck.
I mean, my hair has definitely, because I had a baby when I was 39, so then the hair fallout after that, um, and that was expected. I wasn't surprised when all the hair, and so it started growing back, and it is definitely different hair growing back than before. Like that's been very frustrating because it's like it was curly, and I think there was like, when you're pregnant, you have like so much hair. And I think my hair was like really pretty during pregnancy. You have all those hormones, and now it's like it's not coming back as much. And it was already gray. Like I was gray like when I went 36, 37, I think. Yeah, Ren was like 1 or 2. And so I've already let my hair go gray. But it's definitely like the curl shape is different now than, and it's like losing its curl. Like it's not the same. So I try to do my typical like curly girl method tactics and stuff, and none of it works anymore. So I think I've really got straight hair now. Like so I've got that same thing. I've got like fine hair like yours. I've got like Asian fine hair, but then like curl structure, and they don't really like, I think if civil engineering would tell you can't put like a really, I think it's a structure problem. Like
It can't hold
it
it.
can't hold a curl, but it still is curly. Like it wants to be curly, but it doesn't have I think it's just very frustrating. And so I straighten it sometimes, but then that makes me sad because I'm like, oh, I'm not, letting my true self like
Yeah.
be like, I'm not letting my curl, because that's a big part of like curly girl method is like let your curls do what they're supposed to do. But I'm like, they're not performing anymore. And I think it is like and I mean, my nails, I've got ridges. They're not, I think my thumbs are showing it first, like, and it will spread to, which I guess is an estrogen drop problem. And I bet the hair stuff is an estrogen, anything that was supposed to like create
Youth and beauty.
youth and beauty. It's like not for you
You guys
anymore,
don't need
ladies.
that anymore.
Put it away.
Go in that cave and hide until you die.
Pretty much. So anyway, so that's yeah, I think hair, and I mean I think that's probably one of the scarier parts of the menopause journey is like the way we look changes so much. It's something we've been attached to. But so like our bigger conversation today is about aging in general. How are y'all feeling about that? Are you scared of aging? Are you trying, like, what are your thoughts on all things aging?
Yeah, I don't think I'm scared of aging. I am scared of aging like in a bad way, if that makes sense. Like I know like my dad is 75, 76. He's less mobile, um, and whatnot. And you can see he kind of go through what everybody's like is like typical kind of aging symptoms. Like he's on all the pills, like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. And I could feel him, and I notice when he's like just not feeling good, and it's more often than not. So I don't necessarily mind aging, but I want to make sure I'm mobile and healthy, I guess, as I age. And I know, Michelle, you're really big
Oh.
up on that, and you can talk about, I guess, that doctor you
Yeah.
referenced. But yeah, I'm not scared of aging. I'm not scared of looking older. I'm scared of not being able to move and function, I guess, that's kind of my big fear.
Yeah, I agree. And I think because my husband works in healthcare, so he like that's his thing. He's like, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be able to not take care of myself. So since I've got that in my ear all the time, that I was really into this Dr. Peter Attia, whose whole thing is about longevity. So like, what do you want to be able to do when you're 100 and work backwards? So you want to be able to get on the floor. You want to be able to stand back up. You want your mind to be still sharp. You want to be able to think. But part of it too, I'll say, like, I'm scared of it. I don't like, I mean, luckily, like, I'm blondish and I highlight it. So the grays kind of blend in, but I don't want to look like, and it doesn't make sense because, like, I look at you and you're beautiful and it doesn't, but I'm like, I don't want to be gray. They want to look it on me. I do Botox. I do like micro needling. I try to like prevent the physical signs of aging. And then I guess I also try to prevent by like lifting weights and like making myself as healthy as possible. But Botox isn't making me as healthy as possible. That's just because I'm vain, because I think I am a little like, oh, I don't want to be old.
Yeah, I guess I'm not afraid of just the number aging. I'm afraid of, guess, kind of like you talked about, like the health future. I see my mom, she's developing neuropathy, which my grandmother had. So that's one that kind of scares me. And then also my dad died last fall, from complications from dementia. His mom died in 2020 from dementia. His dad died several years before that from dementia. So the dementia possibility and probability is really scaring me. Because I do see, I took care of two of the three of those people in their dementia stages, and it was hard. So just knowing how hard it was for me being a planner, someone who can kind of take that on a little bit and deal with it, and just thinking I don't want to leave that for my kids or my husband if I do it before he was to go anywhere. So that the prospect of dementia is really got me scared. So like I'll read articles on like how can you prevent it, and then like just thinking about like insurance and money for homes. Some people say don't put me in a home, and I'm saying sign me up, let me go ahead and reserve my spot now, kind of thing. So um I don't want to be that burden, and then I don't want to get to the point to where I'm just a shell of my physical shell still there, but I've been gone for a while, and
Mm-hmm.
if I get to that point, I just might as well put the physical shell down, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm realizing like I feel like we were kind of buffered from what aging looks like. And now that our parents are getting older, I'm like, oh, I don't know, it just felt so much farther away. And all of a sudden it feels very up close. Like, oh, you are getting frailer and we have to be more tender with, you just kind of put your parents, and me and Michelle, our parents haven't, I don't want to, gotten sick yet, but hearing you guys talk about it and just the care required, like, that's coming, and it just feels a little like, oh, like this
Isn't
ride does not last forever.
Yeah, and you always look at your parents as like strength. I remember when I just moved back to Tennessee a couple of years ago, my dad was helping us unload stuff, and in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, he's my dad. Of course, he's fine. And my sister, who has not left, who was here, she was like, you need to make sure he rests, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, oh yeah, he can't lift as heavy, like so you don't. Yeah, it's weird to see your parents getting older and then you getting older too. And it's funny, I was at this family reunion last night with my grandpa's brothers and sisters and all their family. And it's so weird. People would get on stage and kind of give family updates, what's going on. And anyone from 25 to probably about 55, I'm like, yeah, I'm your age. Like, I feel like I'm the same age. I'm obviously not the same age, but like, it's so weird, like how you visualize yourself and then your own parents and what that has to do about your perception of aging and how scared you are of it.
So true. So yeah, I'm like, oh, it just feels like it's good. And so Mark's dad, my husband's dad, when they first came, they were missionaries, and then they came and settled here in Tennessee. So Otis was not born yet, so 13 years ago. And he is like, I don't know how old he must have been, mid 60s. And so he's climbing up on the roof. He's like belaying down the side of and I was like, he's going to kill himself. But he was very spry, and, just you totally would call him to be like, hey, come help us patch this roof. Or like we had a chimney siding, and he was on the chimney, like doing all this stuff. But then now he can't hardly do anything. Like he's gotten sick and everything. And you just like, just to see the difference in just 13 years, and you're like, oh, this does not, time waits for no one, right? Like,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so you're just like, oh, this is real. And then it does, like, I think it's so hard to believe it when you're in your 20s that I mean, I remember like older people being like, oh, if I get on the ground, I'm not going to get back up. And it was like, well, why are you
Yeah,
being
hitting
so
the push
dramatic?
button. I've
Yeah,
fallen and I couldn't
I've
get up
fallen.
kind of out when we were young.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're like, why are they being so dramatic about the floor? And then, and then now you're getting older, and you're like, oh, that isn't the,
Yeah, it's a possibility that they'll fall and not be able to come back up because they just don't have the strength that they used to have.
yeah.
So talking about just not realizing that you've aged and how you see yourself. I'd mentioned to this before, but my dad got really sick one time. We had to go to the ER, and his response in the ER was just like disgust. Like, everybody in here is so old. Like, I'm like, Dad, they're like your age. Like, they're in here for the same reasons you're in here. Like, But the fact that he just still sees himself as this like 40, I mean, he but probably doesn't see himself like in his 20s or 30s. I feel like, but I feel like he maybe sees himself the way he was when he was in his 40s and 50s, like right before he kind of started getting sick and whatnot. So that's interesting to say. You kind of don't see yourself in that light. And another big thing with him, and that I guess now that I'm thinking about my dad more, like what I would be scared about, I feel like he's lonely. Like, we go to work, the kids go to school, so he's alone all day, mostly by himself, and when we come home, we hang out with him a little bit, but there's just a disconnect because he's a little bit older and the language barrier between him and the kids, and it's like, your kids are gonna be grown and have their own lives, and your husband may pass before you, I mean, that's pretty common. Like, are we just gonna be lonelier? I mean, we'll have our friends, but
Are we
your
gonna have
friends.
to golden girl it?
Yeah, like, exactly. I mean, some of your friends may pass away because I think some of my dad's friends, he's gonna go back to Laos, later this year, and we're like, "Oh, are you gonna go see all your friends?" He's like, "They're all dead." Like, because that happens, so, I mean, yeah, not only are you not gonna be as capable physically, but are you just gonna be lonelier? That's kinda scary.
That's like really insightful, and I feel like that has a lot to do with just your aging in general. Like if you're lonely, I think all the studies about cultures where they live to 100, it's because they have such a good sense of community. So I do think like fostering that, and that's hard to do. That's hard to be like, how do I make friendships that are going to last? And because yeah, obviously you have your spouse, but yeah, men tend to die first, and your kids are going to have their own lives one day, and yeah, that's
Another reason to sign me up for that nursing home right now.
I can't wait to be like in the 55 plus community. I think that sounds like fun. It sounds like college again. Like, and I don't think I'll end up there just because of like Mark could be in a 55 plus community. You know what I mean? Not yet, but like in a couple of years, he's headed there. So I've got like, I didn't plan any of the ages in my life well because I'm married. He's too old. My kid's too young. Like I'll be like raised like what? So
it's going to keep you young forever.
it
though.
is like I could bring technically Wilder when I turn 55, he'll be 14, 15. Like I could, in theory, move into a 55. No, I couldn't. I couldn't bring him. I'd be like, but like out of step. But I think it sounds fun.
and keep us social too.
Yeah.
Like not to keep to realize that there's value in this and us getting together and feeling connected. I know, like since we have started doing this podcast and we've been seeing each other more often, like I feel more fulfilled. Like I feel more like myself all the time. So it's been really helpful for me. So
100%. I don't know. There's something about just being with your girlfriends and talking about like life stuff, not
Mhm.
just like catching up on kids and like just like, hey, what is actually going on in your heart? It's been neat to hear that. Anything else about aging that is anybody like more scared of death in a weird way? Like, does it trigger that like
Yeah.
human?
Yes, I would say yes, but I'm not afraid of I'm okay with dying because I'm old, or I'm afraid of dying before I get old, if that makes sense. I'm afraid of dying.
We don't think we're old.
Yeah, well, maybe I am old now, but I'm afraid of dying, like, and not being there for my kids, I guess.
Yes,
I don't know if this is a
that's-
different topic, but I'm just like, as long as I make like if they're married or whatever, if they have their life settled and they don't need me anymore, I think I'll be okay with dying at that point. I just don't want to die any sooner.
yes, both my kids were like, would not take a bottle, would not like, they were really slow to go to solid. So I had such paranoia that I was going to die without them, and like they would die. They're just going to starve to death. So like once, they were on solids, I had like, that felt a little better, but it's still, I'm like, oh, my child's so sensitive. Like, how would they do without their mother? Like, I think that's it. But yeah, once they're like settled in their own life, like, will they be, I think I won't be as scared of.
Yeah.
It's not as much as me not being here, it's not being there for them.
Exactly.
I keep track of like the family affairs and, kids' doctor's appointments and prescriptions and, that kind of thing, and bank account savings and all of that. So I'm afraid that Matt's not going to know how to kind of take over, like just to step in and take over all of that. And that he's going to have to do that while also grieving and planning a funeral and all that. So I'm kind of afraid of that. So I made this sheet of here's all the accounts with the passwords.
Yep. And in case of death,
Yeah,
Walter.
kind of thing. I've
Y'all
got
both
that.
have those?
Well, I started one.
Well,
That
I
is
especially did it when I went for the surgery last year, and then I made sure I updated this because you never know with anesthesia kind of thing. But But yeah, so that's one of the things that scares me, especially since I'm still doing my dad's estate, because he would have to take on that because my sister wouldn't be able to handle that. She didn't have that kind of skill. So just if I could get my dad's stuff figured out before I die, because then we only have to worry about our family
Now
stuff.
you've got us dying in the next year, Marie.
Yeah.
We were
So,
fine.
those are the things I'm kind of afraid of with dying. As far as just dying, I mean, I don't want to die too early, but if I can make it to 80, I'd be happy. I'd be okay to go at that point.
Are you scared of living too long? Because I know that's the
Yes.
fear my husband has. Like, he does not. And I, like, for me, I'm like, I don't know. Like, my grandparents are still alive and, 90s and late
Yeah, that
80s.
goes
and
back to
they're-
kind of what we talked about earlier, just the not being able to do anything and being a burden. So if that's not end of life, I'm afraid of being alive if that's my life. If I'm still as spry as I am now, I don't care about being alive. If I'm just 100 and like this, that's fine. But if I'm 100 and I don't know who my kids are, then I don't want to be alive anymore.
What about you, Marie?
I mean, I don't think I remember it was like a couple of years ago, I was laying in bed, I don't think, 36, 37, and I was like, what if you only have, like, what if this is it? This is the midpoint. Like, I guess this is the midlife crisis, right? But it just kind of like freaked me out that, like, the amount of time we've lived is about the amount of time we have left. And it just kind of like, oh, I don't know. Like, just like, did you do enough? Or did you experience, like kind of that panic attack? I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have a panic attack, but I was just like laying in bed. I distinctly remember it 'cause I was like, is this God telling me like, yeah, this is the halfway point? Like, it, like, which would be nice because it'd be like you get to your 70s or something. But then it's also, this is my other question, like, what age feels old to you now? Because that number keeps changing for me. Because
Exactly.
now I hear a
You just said
52.
70s, and I was like, that's not that old. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the number now that feels old?
Actually, I'm going to say 70 is about that number for me.
70s is what I think of as
Yeah.
being elderly.
Yeah, because my sister's 50 and she looks great. She's awesome. Like, I'm like, yeah, 55, like going into a 55 and over home. Like, I feel like 55-year-olds are young. And
How old's Jennifer Aniston? And
Yeah,
Nicole Kidman's
exactly.
57.
And then 60s, I feel like, yeah, because I've been around my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and then my dad. And then their 60s, I mean, I feel like there has been a definite decline in his 70s. And I feel this similarly with my mother-in-law and father-in-law. I mean, I think they're still super healthy, a lot healthier than my dad, but I feel like 70. And if you talk to him, you're like, when did you start feeling like having all these issues? And he'll be like, I think it's when I turned 70. So now in my head, 70 is like, okay, that's when you start getting old.
Yeah, so if they say like 40s when you start aging because you get, your vision and stuff and all that. But I think, 70s is when you start going down the last hill kind of thing in my mind. I guess because all my grandparents, their big stuff all happened in their 70s. And then they were kind of struggling at the 80 point and they died. My grandmother died at 82. So
I know you were at a point in your life, Marie, where you thought you were going to die soon. And did that, like, my daughter went, gosh, a long time ago, maybe about 10 years ago, she told my husband he was going to die at 42. And we just like have always said that, like, oh, you'll die at 42. But now it's like, okay, he's almost 42. She said he was going to die at 42 in a hot tub. So we're like, oh, you're not allowed to be in any hot tubs from now until you're 50. But like, I mean, that's terrifying. But like, that's not, I don't think I'm going to die at 42. But like, I would be terrified of my spouse dying.
Right. No, I mean, like, I did. It sounded like, oh, I was sick and I thought I was going to die. I wasn't sick. I was just dramatic. Like, yeah, I was pregnant and I just was positive. Like, when I go to this hospital, this is like, I was going to die in labor. Like, I mean, it was so funny because I had the baby, but then, you can still die. Like, you can get a blood clot or whatever. That's why they're like, walk and like, if anything feels funny, let us know, whatever. And we ended up having this nurse and she was so sweet and she was 40 and she was like, oh, she's like, I'm kind of glad to see you. There's still hope or whatever and all this stuff. And she was so like adorable. And I told Mark, I said, what if she's supposed to be your wife when I go? Like, I mean, like that is where, my commitment to the bit was, but I don't know if it changed anything for me, but it definitely, it felt real. Like, you couldn't, so, I didn't want to die.
are you manifesting a feeling or a fear into a feeling?
I don't know. Like, I feel like I was just felt very confronted with my physical limitations. I don't know. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
Vita said no.
No, I get it. Because you're like, you were having a child, like a
It
baby,
felt out of
before, or after typical people do now. Like most people aren't having a child at 39.
uh,
So you felt like, oh, this isn't normal. Yeah, no, I get it. You're like, my body's not meant to do this, which it obviously was.
yeah, and it
But
was totally
I
fine.
think you could have 4 more babies, Marie. But
I mean, like my aunts in the Philippines were like, we go till 45. Like my
Yeah.
grandma's last one was 42. Like they were like, she's not done. I was like, oh, I am. But yeah, I mean, I think it definitely like changed the way I felt like for that year, I felt very like somber would maybe be like where I think most of the time childbirth, labor, that whole season is very like, it's bloom, right?
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
and I was not feeling, I wasn't depressed or anything like that. I don't want to say that, but it just felt very like serious and very like,
Well, your first 2 pregnancies, you always talked about how easy they were. So was the third
Mhm.
one just not easy?
it was the easiest, I
Oh,
would say. Like I felt the best during it. Like there was nothing about being older that like, it didn't
think it was the reminders from the medical staff of you're in that geriatric pregnancy. Oh,
geriatric
you got to do the special testing and all of that that kept throwing it at you.
Yeah, I think I just felt way more reminded of my
Mhm.
age for a year and like I mean the nurses when I would go to like my checkups or whatever, I mean the way these women you'd think they'd never seen gray hair before. And in a way they never do. Like their practice is a bunch of like 20-year-olds like and here I am like with and cuz I was fully gray already by the time and they're like, your hair is amazing. And I'm like, have you never seen gray hair before?
You're like, not on our patients.
Not on our patients. And I think, and then like, yeah, they would always remind me about geriatric and morbidly obese. I mean, I had all the like, but no, I think I just was very confronted with like the physical limitations of like, you're not supposed to be in this
Mm.
situation. But
Did you do anything to prepare for that? Like, was it to the point where you were taking action?
oh yeah, I got life insurance.
Oh.
Like, and I mean, I still do have it, but like they came and like took blood and did the whole, like, it was like a legit life insurance policy because now I was still Marie. And so I did it like the last month of pregnancy. So Wilder's born August 6th. I don't think went into effect until like August 11th. So he still would have been screwed if I did die that week.
Mark would have held it down for that week
But I don't think he would have got insured. Like it wouldn't have,
process.
Right.
processed by then. So it really, I was not, I mean, now it'll be great if I die. Like it'll be like, but no, I did take.
But that's like, if you think about dying young without aging, is there anything that you would miss out on? Like if you were to die in your 40s instead of if we're not halfway done, like, are there parts of the aging process that we're going to miss out on that you would feel sad about not getting to experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think growing old with my husband, like with the kids out of the house, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm looking forward to that phase in our marriage. I like, or we had that in the beginning, but I think it's different. I think our relationship's is a lot deeper now. So it's like a lot more. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that piece and just looking forward to like my kids be grown and be with people they love and having families of their own or whatever it is that they decide or to see who they become, like
Yeah.
what their career is going to be or so that so I don't want to go soon.
Right.
But I mean, if it happens, obviously. But yeah, there's a lot of things I feel like I would miss out on.
I agree.
But I don't personally feel like I have any bucket list items that I have to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, for sure. Like that idea of like kind of retiring or like semi-retiring, and my husband talks about like, oh, we can just like get an RV or kind of travel from here to there and like kind of, be like little nomads and have like a setup wherever, like, oh, we'll have an apartment near where our kids live so we can check on them and their families. And it's so fun because my kids are really into their careers now, like what they want to do. So it's so fun. Like my little one is determined. She's going to be an army doctor. So she's like, oh, I'll take a kid. She doesn't want any kids though. She's like, I'll spoil your kids, Kaya, when I come home from Syria. When I say I'm going to be there, I'll be there. And like, she is. So it's fun to watch them like dream. And it's really exciting to be like, who will they become and what will they do? So yeah, I would agree 100%. I would miss out on that, but I don't feel like I'm not like, oh, I want to see myself,
Like I don't want to
Well,
go on an African safari. Like I can't
Yeah.
believe I didn't get to do that.
Yeah,
Like I
no.
don't care.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think just retiring and not having to think about it, going to work, and then just being able to have that time with Matt and or kids or grandkids, traveling at there's places I want to go see, and can't only get so many a year with kids in school stuff. So definitely traveling and being, just that senior person that's just on the move kind of thing that's not working.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same thing. I want to see who everybody becomes and what they're doing. And I definitely agree about marriage now after it's kind of marinated and done lots of ups and downs and you've gotten through. Like I've always thought that being able to look back on your life. I mean, I think it's kind of what we have here. Like we've been able to look back on womanhood together because we've seen each other through all these different iterations of ourselves. And I love that Mark and I have seen each other through all these different, the longevity of a marriage. And then, that's who you share your memories of, like your kids. And like, I think that's probably like the most heartbreaking thing is like, if I get to old age without Mark, whether divorce or dying, and not having anybody that remembers what Wilder snores sounded like that'll make me cry.
Oh, you're
Yeah.
crying. Now we're all going to cry. Cry.
Yeah. I think my husband and I have been really nostalgic lately because we just had our 19th anniversary a couple days ago. So, like, yeah, right. I know. I got married when I was like 2. So that's
Makes sense.
But like, yeah, it does. Like there's no one else that you have had, especially when you have kids with somebody too. And we were married for 6 years before we had our first kid, so we had plenty of time, like at that stage. But it's different now. Like there's a whole history and a life you've created together that you don't have with anyone else. And yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I think I'm very excited about like traveling with that type, us traveling together or doing random, I don't know, just living without babies.
without anybody pulling on you.
It's going to
Standing
be a
close
good
to the
time.
edge.
I
Let
agree.
them gone. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. When we walk from the car to a building, me and Matt will each hold a hand of one kid. So look forward to the day, I guess, where we hold each other's hand.
Yes.
Love that. I love that. So are y'all? Oh, so what are some? We'll end on this one, but like, what are some big things you're doing to prepare yourself for aging on your body side? Like, I know that.
Yeah, I've definitely started getting back in the gym because I feel like that's the best thing that you can do right now. It's just to lift weights. I like lifting weights, so it's not an issue for me. Like I want to be strong. So that and eating healthier, just taking care of all the basic things that right now, cardio, good diet, weightlifting. And I feel like I need to do more of that, not just for me, but like you say, in the long term, like so I can be more present and there and for my husband and my kids in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I also weightlift usually 5 days a week. I put on muscle really slowly. It's very hard for me to put on muscle. So weightlifting and eating enough protein are like something I keep in the front of my mind a lot. So I try to keep my protein intake high. I make sure I lift weights just so I can move around and be more healthy when I'm older. And then I think the biggest thing is walking. And sometimes especially it's summer in Tennessee, so it's kind of miserable outside. But where I've traveled a lot this summer and when I'm in more walkable cities, like I just feel so much better. I think my blood sugar is more regulated. Like everything is it's better. So that's another thing. And I know I told you guys this is what I was doing before. I tore my ACL last year. Is I was like, oh, I'm gonna get enough steps every day. And I was really good at it. And then I tore my ACL and I haven't like upped my steps again. But I think there's so much like science in walking more that makes you live longer and healthier. So that's my
Yeah.
other thing I'm going to try to.
I didn't really start it with aging in mind, but I started doing weightlifting and also just walking on the treadmill, kind of with the dieting from the post surgery and all that. So doing that, and I wanted to build the muscle tone as as I got lost weight and I had extra skin and stuff, and I wanted to kind of fill that up with some more muscle tone. So I did start doing that. But then also looking at like the skincare, like I know you've talked about that, but looking at the wrinkle creams and collagen for the skin and all that. So that's something I've kind of started looking into as far as like physical. And then again, I mentioned earlier that dementia stuff is a fear that is out there. So just kind of reading up on what are some things that they found that do help with prevention. How close are they going to like cures or think medications and stuff that help that. And so just reading up on that and then just knowing that that's something I'm going to have to possibly prepare for in the future. So that's kind of one of those big ones.
Is there any
really-
actions you're taking to try to prevent or slow down dementia? Like, what are some of those things?
Well, I read an article the other day about I think it was an amino acid it's just a general over the counter supplement that they found may have a impact on it. So they're doing like an FDA test right now. There's no negatives to taking it, so I could take it now, but they don't have definite proof that it is helpful either. So I
They
mean,
can't advertise that
they
it's
can't advertise that it's a
Have you
dementia
started taking
thing.
it
I
yet?
haven't started taking it, but I've looked it up online, and I can order like supplements off Amazon. So I've considered kind of getting those.
Sauna uses. Being in the sauna has been shown to reduce dementia
Yeah, and
risk.
then they say like the games on your like the things. So I do lots of puzzle games anyway. I just play on the phone. Just I've always liked kind of those trivia and mind puzzles. So those kind of things are supposed to help. So, but just kind of right now, just reading up on it and just knowing that it's something I'm probably going to have to prepare for. Maybe 10 years from now, really start getting into preparing for that.
How about you, Marie?
I'm gonna be honest. I know that I want to be active, or at least not. I don't need to be active, but I'm not doing anything right now to do. Like I'm not weightlifting. I walk a little bit, but there's no significant changes. Even though it's like Marie with life insurance, like oh that'll set in after I'm dead. Like
Well, you just had Wilder. I feel
yeah,
like a lot of your energy is kind of
a
there.
little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. And I
It's
mean,
very true.
and I'm also me. Like I've never been a workouter person, so those would be some like really big changes. But you all come visit me in my wheelchair. I know y'all will make a way. But yeah, I mean, I also think I'm very like, aging is gonna happen. Like, I let the gray hair go and all that kind of stuff. But I do like my mind. Like I want to be an active person, but I'm
Yeah.
not doing anything
Yeah.
to
Like your mom doesn't lift weights, and she is like
Right.
super fit and
And
active. So
yeah.
like
I
I
mean, if she
think
gardens, like I think
Ah,
there's like she is an active
she's
person
active.
and she
Yes.
doesn't like to just sit.
I was gonna say, I
yeah.
don't see her just sitting around.
true.
She's always
That's true.
cleaning or something.
That's true.
Something.
So just being she probably
Yeah.
I'm sure she gets the steps in. I'm
And
sure
I
she
think like so my dad and me are probably way more like body type and just bigger and like prone to just sedentary ishness. And I'll be honest, like he doesn't have like he's got diabetes, but he doesn't have a lot of like, and he moves slow, but he's always moved slow. So I don't have, I think, kind of that thing in my, I mean, he still looks pretty young for being 71. Like he doesn't look like a typical 71-year-old. So I don't think I have it in my face yet. Like you need to deal with this, and it will be too late when I decide. But I'm hoping that there will be some peer pressure with our regular. Like I do feel
Yeah.
a little bit of.
We're gonna start going for walks again, Marie.
Oh, I know. We did that for a couple weeks and it was fun. So, anyways, but yeah, so that's a good episode. Cool.
Awesome.